in my honor of Veterans Day, I'll tell you a quick story. At Fort Riley, I had this cook. He was Mormon, and he had been a missionary, I think, in New York for Cambodian, right? He went to culinary school for 2 years, and then he joined the Army. As you always knew, he was going to get his job done. He was knowledgeable, but he had one problem, and he was married. His wife just did not understand what it meant to be a cook in the service. For example, artillery will get up, they'll get all the tanks, they'll get all the support, and everyone goes out to the training area and they do their job for a couple days, and then they'll return back to base, right? Back to their regular headquarters area. And usually the first day, it's all about getting back in, start unloading what you have to unload, and then start the cleaning of equipment. And usually in the evening, your soldiers are required to give up their time to get their personal equipment back in order. But as a cook, depending on the situation, you have your obligation in the mess hall above everything else until it's time to run out to the field. Then that's your new obligation. So once you come back, guess what? All those single guys that live in the barracks, they have to have, dinner. But come the next day, your job is back to the kitchen. The downside to this is that you have to get back on your equipment. If you had a room to store it, you could unload it and clean it bit by bit. But what generally happened with the cooks in the line batteries is that they would come in and they would work their shift. So if you worked the morning shift, you were getting in at 4 or 5 o'clock and you were there until 12, 1, 2, just however long it took, depending on the day. And then when you were done, you would go change into your BDUs and you would go down and you would work on your equipment. And, these guys, I'm telling you, I was so blessed that I was not in these units, okay? Let me tell you, I'm telling you what I observed. I did not have to participate like this. So these guys, 2, 3, 4 days a week, depending. So they would come in, they would work their shift, they would fix and serve breakfast, they would fix lunch, and then they would start cleaning the kitchen. Like myself, if I was the morning shift, I was done. I would go relax, do whatever. I bowled a lot, so I would go to the bowling alley. But these guys, they would go to the motor pool. And they would be there till 4 or 5 o'clock. Sometimes later, sometimes they had a week to get everything in order. And, it was just 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. They come in on Saturdays. It did not matter. And on the mornings they worked the late shift. Because of things that were going on, they had to go do PT with the company at 6:30. Then they had to change. They had to go to the motor pool until 10 o'clock, and then they would come and work their shift. And usually we got out the mess hall. We served dinner 5 to 6:30 and a half hour to clean up. So somewhere 7:30, you're leaving to go home, only to have to get up the next morning and come back because we flip-flopped every day. And I'll never forget. I met the guy's wife, and she was a nice woman. She loved her husband, which is the number one priority. She loved her husband, and so he was on the opposite shift as me. So one day I'm in there and the phone rings, and I pick it up, Sergeant Vincent, and she goes, "Can I speak to my husband?" And I knew her voice, okay? So I knew the guy's wife by voice, and she'd say, "Oh, where's my husband at?" And it wasn't, can I speak to Private Reed or whatever. It was, where's my husband at? And I remember telling her, well, he's in the motor pool. And a lot of times, if guys were messing around, tell her tell her we're at the motor pool because that's where they kept their equipment. That was just a quick, easy out, right? And and she called a few times, and it was just one of those times when these guys were always working down there. And I'll never forget, she called, and and I don't remember my tone of voice. I don't think I was ever rude with her. And she said, can I speak to my husband? And I'm like, well, he's in the motor pool. Her response, she said, where's my husband at? He's in the motor pool. Well, that's what you said yesterday. And I'm like, and that's where he was yesterday. And that's probably where he's going to be tomorrow because, ma'am, they're, so that's how their life was. Okay. So a lot of these cooks that I worked with, if they got in the wrong unit, I mean, it was nothing for these guys to clock 80, 90 hours a week. Okay. Because guess what? Your mess halls are open Saturday and Sunday. Well, lesser hours. People don't all eat, but you still have to be there on the weekends. We usually worked all day, and you're talking a solid 12-hour days, even on the weekends. So to all you cooks out there in the Army, I salute you from the comfort of my living room. A lot of people they'll just never understand what it really takes to make it, and you got to feed the troops, right? The service travels on its stomach. That's more true than it's not true until you don't eat. So to all you cooks out there, I salute you. Hey, if you were a cook, hit me up in the comments. All right, I'd love to hear where you were. I'd love to hear where you were stationed. If you got any little experiences you want to share about your time being a cook, I'd love to hear it. All services, hey, we love all of you. Thank you. And Veterans Day, so thanks to all the veterans that have sacrificed their time and those that sacrificed their lives. Thank you.